Radio. So we have this bill for the maintenance of emergency services in a world economic depression, the protection of the American people from immiseration, poverty, despair, and naturally the reactionary Republicans and enough of these Wall Street Democrats able to block the bill. Let's just look at this teacher side of it. $23 billion gets you 300,000 public school teachers and staff. Who could be against this? Well, Will the Shill, George F. Will of the Hollinger Corporation, an international advisory board, one of the nastiest and most venomous of reactionary ideologues, writes, this is in the Washington Post of June 6th, the teacher bailout. And he says, we have the Cato Institute, these libertarians over there, telling us that, 300,000 teachers, big deal, that's just 4.8% of the teachers in the United States. That's just the way the market works. Well, sorry again, boys. That is beginning to tear the fabric of civilization. The other irony is you do that in the name of cutting the deficit, right? You want to balance the budget on the backs of these teachers. Wonderful reactionary idea. But the problem with that is you do that, what happens? They stop earning money. They stop paying taxes. The multiplier effect goes into effect, and they're going to be collecting unemployment benefits, the general effect on the society, right? Their children won't be educated. The children may be unemployed and on welfare, and on and on and on. Net result, cutting the budget creates a bigger deficit in the following year. That's the experience of Herbert Hoover. That's the experience of Brüning in Germany during the same years. Austerity in this sense does not work. This kind of the kitchen table stuff, right? Run the national economy like you run your kitchen table family budget planning. This is for imbeciles. This does not work. These are not commensurable. You're comparing apples and oranges. So important to pass that. And, of course, the other thing that this points to is the duplicity and treachery of Obama. You should be out there fighting. Why don't you do a address to the nation from the Oval Office on this, Obama? No, of course not. That wouldn't be a good idea. We've just got to remember the pathos of Obama. What it shows is that as a chief executive, of course, he's non-existent. He's a miserable, wretched excuse for a chief executive. Another good reason to get a primary challenge against Obama in the Democratic primary going and to put him on the spot, right? Not to let him sail through, but to force him into the contortions that he'll have to go into if he's got to debate somebody on his bankrupt policies. So the austerity psychosis here in Washington, D.C. continues. Now, we have to point out something very sinister is happening. The lame duck session in late November and December is looming now as a time of truly monstrous maneuvers by Obama, Rahm Emanuel, and others. And what we had this week was people saw Obama's Oval Office address, and they said, how come, and this was the green ideologues, right, the radical environmentalists and ecological fanatics, they're saying, why didn't he talk about cap and trade? Why didn't he talk about the carbon tax? Why didn't he talk about global warming? We could have had emergency action on that. And the answer seems to come back, filtered through various leaks, that Obama realizes that to advocate openly for cap and trade and the carbon tax, now that the global warming hypothesis is so widely discredited and its charlatans and quackademics, the people who have sponsored this, are so much under attack, and indeed they ought to be, for fraud, that it's politically impossible to advocate adding this trillion-dollar burden, minimally, on the U.S. economy. But here's the plan, that when you get to late November and December, you're going to have a tribe of Democratic lame ducks and some Republican lame ducks, too, who are all going to be looking for jobs in Wall Street and related places, and that with the help of these people who have nothing left to lose, the public will can be flaunted, and the monstrosity of cap and trade and the carbon tax and the whole global warming lunacy, this straitjacket, this prison house and execution chamber of civilization, that this is going to be imposed. So you've got to mobilize now to be ready for Obama in that time between Armistice Day, Thanksgiving, St. Nicholas, right, Advent, right before Christmas, holiday season, you can imagine Obama pushes through, he bootlegs cap and trade through the House and the Senate on Christmas Eve when nobody's looking. And, of course, it's not just cap and trade. We also have this Erskine Bowles, Al Simpson commission. I call it the Peterson Commission because that's who ordered it. That's who's dominating it. It's that Peter Peterson, the former chief executive of Lehman Brothers. He was actually thrown out of Lehman Brothers several decades before, but he's an investment banker. He's a hyena, and his line has always been, just like so many libertarians and Tea Party people, that the entitlements are bad, that Social Security, Medicare, unsustainable, got to be cut, got to be gouged, got to be looted for the greater glory of what? Of bigger and better bailouts for Wall Street. So Peterson and his institute here on Massachusetts Avenue are providing the logistical services, the administrative staff. You got Erskine Bowles, whose track record is he tried to destroy Social Security back in 1997, and it was only Monica Lewinsky that stopped him by blowing up the political combination. You got Alice Rivlin, an austerity ghoul left over from the Clinton-era OMB. You've got this Congressman Ryan, who is one of the most foaming at the mouth advocates of destroying entitlements, stripping the American people of their economic rights and their conquests over decades. The attack on Social Security is likely to go together with the cap and trade. So we're approaching a very dangerous time. We have to assume, and indeed hope, that the preponderant power of the Democrats will be broken. Naturally, it's better if this is done by reasonable people, not reactionary imbeciles. And there's some hope that various people might come forward who are somehow reasonable, or at least who don't believe the ideology they mouth. But I'm afraid Engel is not one of them. What we have to do is realize that this November-December period is going to be one of extreme danger, because assuming that the Democrats have had some losses, which I think is just about unavoidable and desirable. It's desirable. The Democrats may have lost one House of Congress or more. Certainly the loss of one House of Congress by the Democrats, I think, would be desirable. It would be in the national interest, apart from the merits of the individuals, because what we want to do with this ruling class as a whole is to block them. We want gridlock. We want paralysis, at least for the moment, until some kind of a constituency can be built for rational reform. But when we have Malthusian lunatics on the one hand and Austrian school monetarists on the other, we're in big trouble. So the existing Republican and Democratic parties are absolutely bankrupt. Where could a third force emerge? Well, a third force could perhaps emerge from a period of prolonged stalemate and prolonged gridlock. And how that works right now, it's hard to say, but it's got to happen, because with these two parties, you won't have a nation before too long. So watch out for this very sinister lame duck festival of austerity and the destruction of entitlements and cap and trade and carbon taxes and Malthusian excesses coming in November, December. Now, connected to this, changing gears for a second, we had this week the Afghanistan gold rush. It was on Sunday. The New York Times, James Risen, published an article about the fabulous mineral wealth of Afghanistan. They have iron, they have copper, they have gold, they have lithium, and so on down the line. This was, in effect, one of the opening guns of the Petraeus for President campaign. He's the only government official quoted in the article, and this is a neocon ploy to help put Petraeus in the White House. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.